What's up, YouTube? I want to do a video on my long range setup and basically how I came about coming up with that setup and my touch a little bit on my load development for it. What I chose for a long range gun was a Remington 700 AAC SD is what the model is, designation from Remington. Why I went with that model is a 20-inch barrel, heavy barrel, with threaded heavy barrel, and it's 1 in 10 twist, which I like the higher twist rate of this model. Most of them are 1 in 11 or 1 in 12 because it shoots the heavier bullets a little better. Usually your faster twist will be a little better with heavier grain bullets. So the setup, basically how it came, this is basically all that's left is the barreled action. Unfortunately, the way they ship from Remington, they're just not really set up to do long-range precision work with. The triggers on them, the trigger that came with this one was horrible. It was like 5.5 pounds. They say they're adjustable. You know, I tried adjusting it. It wouldn't move. It'd stay at 5.5 pounds no matter where the set screw was. It was kind of gritty. It just wasn't a good trigger. I put a Timney in it with the safety or whatever, just the standard like Timney drop-in replacement. The stock that comes with these are like atrocious. People call them the Gumby stock because basically they're like a green overlaid stock, and just the weight of the gun itself on a bipod. If you attach a bipod to that stock, you can lay the gun down and it no longer free floats. And what that means is basically the stock has no support up in here where the bipod mounts or whatever, and it basically tilts up, you know, just under the weight of the gun, and it touches the barrel. And why you want a free-floating barrel is because you want the barrel acts kind of as like a tuning fork per se when it goes off. So if nothing touches it, it can reproduce that same harmonics shot after shot, which then gives you better grouping. If it touches, it changes the harmonics of the barrel, and you can't repeat that same harmonics shot to shot, because say if there's 4 pounds of pressure pressing against it, it'll dampen it one way. If there's 6 pounds against it, it dampens another way. If there's 10 pounds against it, where you're loading the bipod or whatever, it changes shot to shot. So it's basically not any good for long range. So like I said, the stock just didn't work. I went with the Magpul Hunter stock. It was just coming out when I got this gun, so I ended up giving it a try. I haven't changed it yet. I'm really happy with it. They say it's not a precision stock, it's a hunting stock, but at least it is reinforced with like an aluminum bed in it that's overlaid. So it'll free float like 4 sheets. Actually, I think I took 8 sheets of paper. It'll free float, and it doesn't change whether it's on the bipod loaded or not. It doesn't have any flex to it. So that's great. I mean, as long as it free floats the barrel and it's, it tightens down and it remains consistent in here, that's really all you can ask of a stock. Other than that, it comes down to just personal preference of how your cheek well binds up and everything on it, or how your grip is when you fire it. So it does a great job. It does what I want it to do. The whole setup here is heavy. It's a precision rifle. It's not so much a hunting rifle where I'd obviously throw a sling on it and want to walk 5 miles with it. It's heavy. I think it's about, last time I weighed it, I want to say it was 13.5 pounds, and I think that was with no magazine. So I mean, it's definitely a lot to lug around if you were gonna take it anywhere. Basically, I ran the Magpul bottom metal so I can get the detachable magazine, and that's the most cost-efficient way. That was kind of the selling point for me on this stock, because if you go with another stock, you either have to have someone inlay it for bottom metal, or you buy one and you have to run like a Badger ordnance or something like that, and you're going to be out another $200-300 for the bottom metal, which is what they consider, which is trigger guard and the housing here to take magazines. It's a actually international pattern magazine, so it's supposed to take actually international metal mags. I don't have any AAC SD mags. I just have some Magpuls, and I have some other brand, I can't remember what they were, but they're AAC pattern, and they fit fine. The Magpuls give me a little longer loading, and when you start doing long range, it's imperative you have to hand load if you want to get really get your groups down and really see what your rifle's capable of, you have to hand load. Unfortunately, they go hand in hand. You have to do it. This mag here lets me load, I believe, to a 2.82, where the other mags I have is 2.80, and that's overall length, basically, of the cartridge. And so it gives you just a little bit longer length, and when you start reloading, you'll notice how deep your rifle will take a round. You can go longer, and then you have to hand load them in, and it's where where basically the bullet shoulder contacts the rifling, and then you'll move it back. You can play with that seating depth to see what your rifle likes as far as accuracy goes. I load to the magazine because I shoot for a magazine, so I go the longest I can go on a magazine, which is 2.82 with these mags. This is a 10-round Magpul mag. As far as optics go, I went with a nightforce NSX 5.5 to 22. It's got the zero stop, which is a great feature. And if you're not familiar with a zero stop, basically when you're shooting long range, you'll dial in what you call your dope or whatever, data of previous engagement, or basically history of stuff you shot, and the conditions you record and everything, and how much bullet drop you need to dial into the scope. This scope, I shoot MOAs, I don't shoot mils. It's just easier for me to figure in my head. I wasn't in the military or anything like that, so I'm not used to doing mils. And then if you go from mils to yardage and stuff, or MOA, you have to do a calculation on it. And I shoot a ballistic calculator that basically tells me my input. I shoot a Strelok program, and it's pretty accurate once you put in all your data. You have to put in your bullet coefficient, your velocity, bullet weight, barrel. It's even got my scope with my reticle and everything in there, the correct way, so I can shoot off the reticle if I want to, but I usually don't. I usually dial everything in, except windage. I do windage holds. So zero stop, what's nice is, say you're going to take a shot, and if I was going to take a 300-yard shot, I know I got to go 20 clicks. So if I dial in 20 clicks, whatever, I'm ready to take a shot. Bang, I take the shot. Now if I go back to my 100-yard zero, it stops. I can't go past that. So if you're just going out 20, it's not a big deal. But if you go a full revolution, which this scope has a lot of adjustment, it's got 20 MOA per rotation, which gets you way out there. So you really don't go over that much. I mean, I've shot this thing out to 850, but if you spin it more in a rotation, and say that's the last target you shoot that day, and you're way out in your adjustment, you get home, you pull out the bag, and you're like, oh, I'm on 3. Am I on 3 or am I on 23? You're like, oh man, what did I last do that? So then you go out and you shoot again, and you're all of a sudden you start right off, you're 20 MOA too high. So that zero stop takes all that guesswork out. That's a really nice feature. You unfortunately pay for it on a nightforce. It's a couple $100 extra bucks, I think, when you get that option. This one is illuminated. They're not daylight bright or whatever, and really don't have to be. If you're shooting fine crosshairs, you really don't want bright illumination. It just kind of tends to make the reticle look bigger anyway. So when you shoot precision, it's not really a needed feature. It's kind of nice in low light, stuff like that. If you start shooting at dusk or whatever, you can pop the illumination on, which you just basically pull out. That illuminates the scope. But like I said, it's a dim lit scope in there. I think it's made for use of like a PVS 14 or something like that, doing night vision. So there's a little rheostat in there. You can adjust it way down, I think, for night vision, and then there's actually a visible setting, but it's really low. This is all nightforce rings. I have the bubble level too. I put on for a while. I switched it out. I'll probably put it back on. It's kind of hard to see over this. The Vortex one I had was a little better. You could pick it up with your non-dominant eye, would kind of project it like it was inside the scope, and it was a little easier to see. It's a Leopold Mark IV rail with 15 MOA built into it, and all that does is it lowers your scope. You would think it would lift it up, but it actually lowers it 15 MOA, which then raises the muzzle 15 MOA, then you zero. And what that does is it adds 15 MOA that you just took out of the scope, and you zero to your top end. So as you go, you got more adjustment coming out to make the longer shots, because you can get so long, especially in 308, the thing really starts dropping, 6, 7, 8, 900 yards. By the time you get to 1,000 yards, I think my data on my load is 441 inches of drop you have to compensate for. So that's quite a bit, that you do that so you don't run out of adjustment in your turret. So like I said, 15 MOA there. The thing's been great. I've struggled with some load development with it. early on, a few years back, you couldn't get powder. It was really tough to find. So I went with the new powder that came out from IMR, 4166, which was supposed to mimic Varget in pretty much all ways. Even the load data was pretty close. I mean, it was within, the min and max was within like half a grain of each other. So I started load development with that. Worked on it. I managed to get an 8-pound keg, so I jumped on it when I could because powder was hard to get at the time. And everywhere you read it said use Varget, but I just couldn't find Varget in any kind of. I actually couldn't find it at all, much less a big batch of it to do load development and then have it later. So basically, these are bought at an office supply store, so they're actually 7/8. They're not a 1-inch circle. That's kind of groups I was getting with the 4166, and I couldn't get it any better than that. I mean, I'd struggle. I'd get a group like that. I'd have 2 touching and then 1 out, so it's still just under MOA. And like I said, I struggle with the gun. I struggle with it. I struggle with the load. Would change, go up half a grain. Come down 2/10. Would just try to do a good load development on it. And I just couldn't get any better than that. I always had a wild shot in the group. If I had 2 touching, I'd have 1, ½ inch over. And I thought, man, is it me? Is it what's going on? I just can't get this thing to group right. I just can't get it dialed in. So as things let up, powder let up. And by the way, I'm shooting this is one of my hand loads. And I'm not shooting fancy brass, I'm just shooting Lake City, once fired, that I get at like Texas Brass Company or whatever. And then I resize and trim every loading. I have an auto trimmer that's all set up, so I just basically shove it in and it trims it. So I trim every loading. I weigh every powder charge, every round. It's the only way you can really do it consistently, enough to get the kind of groups I'm looking for. So that's basically what I use in this barrel, and that's on the internet. That's what everybody's say to use in this barrel. 1 in 10 twist. It's 178 grain. Hornady AMAX bullet. That's the box that comes in there. 178 grain AMAX. And then, like I said, once I finally found some Varget powder, things loosened up. Got some Varget. Then, after load development, I started getting groups like that. And believe it or not, that's a 3-shot group, and it's pretty much immeasurable. I mean, once you take 30 out of that, or .300, the diameter of the bullet, it's almost immeasurable. Here's another 3-shot group. This one's a little, you can see the 3rd shot just a little better. That other one looks almost like it's 2, but it's 3. That one you can make out the 2 and then the 1. But I mean, that group right there is like, once you take out the 3/10, it's like quarter MOA. And this one's even less than that. So this thing now, as long as I do my part, I can consistently shoot half MOA. I mean, consistently. I know a lot of people say that, they shoot their ARs and all this stuff. They got a sub MOA or half MOA AR. To shoot half MOA, it's tough, and it takes a lot of load development. It takes a lot of time behind the trigger. I probably got 900 rounds to this gun so far. Just getting used to trigger squeeze, just everything, the fundamentals on my part, as well as load development, and kind of doing what I have to do, much less what the gun has to do, and you have to develop a load for that. So once I got the load down, and I knew it wasn't me that was constantly throwing that shot, it kind of built my confidence, and I was able to shrink those groups down and kind of keep them shrunk. And every once in a while, I'll have a wander, but I can kind of call it. I'll squeeze one off, and no, I can tell you right now, it's not going to be good. I just didn't feel it. It didn't feel right when I squeezed the trigger, and so I knew it was my fault. And I can deal with that part of it. It just sucks to not know if it's you or your equipment. At least if it's you, you can work on it. If it's your equipment, you got to find the problem. So I found the problem. Problem was in the powder. This gun just didn't like it. It just wouldn't group right. And like I said, everyone said Varget was the way to go. I just couldn't find it. I finally found some and stocked up a little bit, so I got some for any kind of thin times that come with powder again. But if you have one of these guns, I would say start there, save yourself some time. Do Varget. I'm at 41.8 grains of Varget in a behind 178 grain AMAX in a NATO brass. It's not Lapua or anything like that. So you have to come down on your loadings when you use NATO brass because the walls are thicker. So you can't use the max load. I believe max load, you can find it printed up to 44 grains. Some stop at 42.5, but like I said, it just depends on the data you're looking at. Some will print higher data, you know. And if you can find printed data and you're replicating what those are, it's probably going to be safe. But on rifle stuff, it's always best to start at the start load and work your way up, looking for pressure signs and stuff like that. Where handgun, you know, you almost load the max loading and be okay. Rifle, you know, with chamber size and stuff like that, you're dealing with so much pressures. Start at the starting load and go up, and then, like I said, you'll see kind of extractor swipes. You'll see signs of pressure as you go up, and you'll see, you know, primers flattening out. So it'll give you signs before you blow something up, you know. So be cognizant of reading that brass, you know, or what it's trying to tell you when you find that brass. So, like I said, I just want to do a quick overview to show you that these actually can shoot. They do take some work, unfortunately, when you buy them from the factory, to go through them and fix the problems that they've kind of sent them out the door with. The barrel's good though. Barrel's good. Action's good. They work fine. I was kind of almost ready to throw in the towel and go buy a Tikka CTR until I found that powder and changed it over. So, anyways, guys, I just want to give you a quick overview. This could be a 5-hour video talking about loading and stuff like that, because there's so much that goes into it to load long range, not just reloading for, you know, target plinking or hunting or whatever. So hope you enjoyed it. I might do another video a little more in depth of reloading and trying to reload for accuracy. And I'm fairly new at it as far as accuracy goes. I've been reloading for years, but this long range thing has really thrown a monkey wrench in it, because a lot of the stuff I thought I knew I didn't know, and I had to learn. And lucky I had a buddy that shoots long range and could guide me through a lot of it. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, thanks.